Welcome everyone to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. It's me, Uncle E. That's my partner, the journalist Sincere. And today we have joining us all the way from Thailand, none other than DJ Criminal. What's up, sir? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today. You know, we're going to get a little bit into some of your history and work our way up to what you're currently doing in the present day. But to start it off, if I'm not mistaken, I know you're from Philadelphia originally?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, okay. Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
why don't you give us a little background? Tell us a little bit about coming up in Pittsburgh. How did you get into DJing in general? Because I know you have a wide range when it comes to DJing. But tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, let me first say, thank you for having me on the show, fellas. I
Absolutely.
do appreciate it. Right on. Growing up in Pittsburgh, it's very hilly there. There's lots of snow. And I was always interested in music. Like I grew up playing guitar and drums. And then a couple of friends brought me to a rave when I was like 15. And the sound was just so loud, and I'd never been exposed to a sound system up close that was like, you could really feel the bass. And that's kind of what sparked my interest in DJing. And then a kid at my high school had I think it was PSSL, Pro Sound and Stage Lighting magazine, that had those like DJ in a box packages where, so like my first setup was like 2 belt drives and a channel mixer that didn't have any fader control. And that's kind of how I got into it. And I started playing a bunch of different genres. When I was in Pittsburgh during that time, like in high school, it was mostly just like techno stuff. And then I would like try to scratch, but I was like really bad. Because you kind of need a teacher for like a lot of that shit.
Right.
You can do some like one-handed stuff. You might be able to figure that out. Or if you're like, I don't know, I guess smarter than me, you might be able to figure it out. But like, it wasn't until years later when like someone kind of sat me down and was like, you got to do this for, this scratch sound, this is transforming, this is flaring, this is that, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, back in Pittsburgh, it was, I started out just throwing raves with my friends and playing like techno music and stuff. And that's how it like all started, I guess.
All right. So pretty much it was more like the techno type of music then. Before
yeah,
hip-hop.
when I was a teenager, yeah, I had like a couple James Brown records, and then I would always like take my parents' records and practice scratching with theirs because I didn't want to mess mine up. And yeah, so it was just like strictly. I don't think I even bought a hip hop record on vinyl until I was in college, which would have been like 2001.
Oh, okay.
It's probably when I first started buying hip hop records. I had a couple CDs, but my predominant vinyl collection for DJing was like house music and techno. This is like 24 years ago.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, when I first got into hip hop, it was just like, yeah, head first deep dive, which would have been my junior year of high school. I saw Jurassic 5 play in Pittsburgh and the stuff their DJs were doing, and just kind of that West Coast melodic, harmonious deliverance that they would do on the mics. I really dug that. And that's kind of what pushed me over the hip hop cliff, I guess.
Okay. Well, but between the techno and house music, I mean that both genres are huge. Tell us a little bit about the journey that those two genres took you on.
Well, I started out, I was like 15. I had a part-time job. I always had a part-time job. So I always had like a little bit of money for records, but when you're like a teenager, unless I don't know, you come from some like baller ass family, you can't really like build up your record collection really quick, So that it's kind of like a slow, unless like some older dude that like sees you coming up is like, you know what, like I'm not spinning out anymore. Here's 20 records that are shit, but you can have them to practice with,
Right.
So a lot of the time was spent on just finding like bangers back in the day. Like I remember my friends and I, there was only like 3 record shops that had like good electronic music in Pittsburgh at the time. And when my friends and I would find out, and remember, this is like pre-MySpace days, there wasn't nothing going on online. And my friends and I would like call up when we would find a new release from like insert whoever's production name. And we would know the record store would only order like 2 or 3. So some of our friends that lived in other parts of the city would like go in and pretend to be us and then like jack those records before we could go in and like buy our orders. So it got to the point where we would have to like call the record store and be like, yeah, I want this track, order it from like, this record store in the UK, and make sure your staff asks to see my ID when I come to pick it up. Like, you got to ID us because my other friends are going in and getting all the good records that I'm ordering. So I remember a lot of that, and then like I recently just played a drum and bass party up here a couple weeks ago, and the only thing I've been playing for the past 20 years is hip hop, funk, and soul. That's it. And no offense to like the electronic DJs, but like mixing that shit's. Sorry, can I say shit on?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, mixing that shit's like hella boring, and it's like stupid easy. So like, at least with hip hop and funk, you can get a little busy and you're like moving around, but like with that electronic stuff, it's so boring. Like,
before you go on, I'm glad you kind of just mentioned that. Maybe you can help me understand something. When it comes to electronic music, techno, right? I always see these videos of DJs DJing, right? And they're like jamming and tweaking these knobs. And I'm like, what exactly are they doing? Because I don't really hear much happening with the sound, but they're there and they're like tweaking all these knobs. And I'm like, can you help me out with that a little bit?
I mean, like,
how are they doing?
Off the bat, I'm gonna say like 85% of that is like totally
it's
just
a preset mix.
Well, like
just making believe they're doing stuff.
The mixers that they're using, they're generally, from what I recall, and the videos I see online, where people like are doing bird's eye videos of like model DJs, and they're using pre-recorded mixes and shit. But even if you're actually mixing, your digital files, CDs, or records, you really just got like highs, mids, and lows on there. So it's just like, I turned down.
It looks like they're getting busy. You know what I mean? They hit the knob and they're like, wow,
Yeah, I mean, but so there's a caveat to that, and the caveat is like, a lot of the newer mixers now have like legit effects that those electronic DJs might be using, but I don't really think so, because you're not going to put a delay on a house song. So I mean, like, yeah. It just looks.
It just always intrigued me, man. I'm like, wow, they look like they really putting in a lot of work, but I don't really hear anything happening.
They're just kind of like, selling the stage performance. I remember like once when I was like, again in my early teens, and some kid in my high school hired me to throw this like Christmas party for this girl that he was trying to get with, So he like threw this surprise party for her, and I was like the DJ. And it was like a long ass party, so I invited one of my older friends to come and DJ with me because I'm standing for 5 hours kind of sucks, And I remember he told me like halfway through the set, he's like, Ian, that's my name, Ian. He's like, should like move around a little bit more while you're back here, like do more stuff. Like when people see a DJ, they don't want to just see you, standing there.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you're right, Phil. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, yeah, a lot of those like big EDM festivals, some of those DJs kind of take it a little too far. It's like, all right, calm down, guy. Like you're just taking out the high frequencies of you're taking out the hats, bro. Like
just chill out.
You're not like doing anything that like my 3-year-old niece can't do.
Yeah.
You're literally like just going like that. That's all you're doing, man. Calm down, G.
Thank you.
As a side note, I went to Pittsburgh for the first time this summer. I was amazed by how steep those hills are. Kind of reminds me, it's crazy, like San Francisco, maybe worse than San Francisco, but San Francisco doesn't have any snow. How do you guys get around Pittsburgh in the wintertime with those steep hills?
If it's one, it's terrifying. Like you slide, even if there's not snow, we'd get black ice over there. And it was like, looking back on it, it was like pretty terrifying. Like there'll be days where it snows so much and it's like, all right, like I'm not physically able to leave my house. There was too much snow. And like, there's just like mad accidents. But I mean, even when it's not snowing, a lot of those hills are really suspect. Like blind turns going down like this big, and it's like, we shouldn't have done this. This is a mistake. Like we effed up here. So yeah, like looking back, like that's one of the big reasons I left America and have been in Southeast Asia is there's no snow over here at all. We get monsoons and typhoons and shit, but there's no snow at all. Like in the city I live in, it rarely gets below 85 degrees. But yeah, dude, that driving up with those hills, it's wild. Like people just kind of grow up and their brother, sister, or friend or parents teaches them if they have a car and they're in a whip, you got to know like what to do when your shit starts like sliding off the road, and maybe there's like a cliff there or a ravine or whatever. Like you got to know how to work your tires on the road. It sucks pretty bad. What state are you guys in right now?
I'm in Indiana.
Yeah, I'm in New York, Long Island.
Oh, all right. So then, yeah, New York. Like snow driving. It's wintertime. Like some people even, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they'd even get like winter tires and shit.
Yeah. The snow tires.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or put chains on and shit.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I would trade the snow.
That ever again.
I'm not sure if I would trade the snow for monsoons and stuff like that.
The monsoons, they're just kind of like annoying. So, like for instance, like
it's not like the tsunamis or nothing, right?
Well, yeah, they had one really bad tsunami here, but those are pretty rare.
All right.
But with the monsoon season, like I was at this venue last night and like putting up decorations for my release party, and where was it? Yeah, I like stopped at a friend's bar who was having a birthday party after this. And in the span of 3 minutes, it went from like perfect chill nighttime weather to just pouring down rain. And I was like, all right, now, you know, I'm on a motorcycle, and I was like, all right, well, now I can't like drive home, and I have to wait out the rain. And that was the second time yesterday I had to just like sit down outside and be like, this sucks. Yeah. Like waiting for the rain to stop. Or until it got light enough where, you know, I can drive through. But yeah, that shit comes out of nowhere, man. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your influences DJ wise earlier on, and kind of how that has progressed, to who influences you nowadays?
Sure. I would say the first DJ that really like impressed me was this guy. I think he's out of Rhode Island. His name was he still plays. His name's DJ Venom. He plays like hard house, hardcore, and hip hop. And he was one of the few circulating DJs in the rave scene back then, and now that can scratch really good. There was also another dude out of Chicago that could scratch really good named Bad Boy Bill. But Venom would come and like play at our raves, and I would just be glued like watching his hand movements. And he would do a lot of like one hand scratches for the electronic stuff he was spinning. So he was probably the first person that I got to like see up close in reality and be like, how the hell do you do this? You know what I'm saying? So it was this dude named DJ Venom. He still plays out all over the East Coast. Phenomenal DJ. And, you know, that dude's been doing it for like 40, 35 years. So props to him.
Wow.
And then when I got down south, because I went to university in Florida, and that's when I first found out about scratch records, like records that are actually made for the entire purpose of like giving you sounds like fresh, what, you know. And then I like, you know, did a big deep dive into Q*bert's crew. And then when I got out to like right between college and like after college, I was visiting my brother on the West Coast, and I was in Portland, Oregon. Have you guys ever been to Portland, Oregon?
No.
Nope.
All right, so they got a venue there called the Crystal Ballroom, and the floors of the venue, like maybe about 50 feet or so, 80 feet to the main stage back, the floors have springs in them, and the floor bounces. And it's in an old Crystal Ballroom, so it's a crazy venue. And I was out there, and I saw Atmosphere and Mr. Dibbs play, and watching Mr. Dibbs DJ, he was probably the first DJ I ever saw that I could watch and still just be like, I don't know how he's doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you watch a house DJ or another insert genre DJ, if you're like up there in front watching, you might not be able to replicate or do what they're doing, but sensically it all connects, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how that sounds made. That's how that trick's done. Oh, that's the button they're using. They're going from 33 to 45. But like the stuff Dibbs was doing, I was just like, it's beyond me. And I ended up going to intern at their record label, Rhymesayers, for a couple years. So talking to that guy, who, you know, and I was just chatting with him last night. We're still good friends. The stuff that guy can do with the turntable is just beyond. He kind of really expanded my mindset about what you could do with the turntable and the tricks you can do. And I'm just like, oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, so those were probably like my biggest influences. Like when I was just starting out, DJ Venom, and then like a little bit of Q-Bird and his crew in the mix there, and then like Mr. Dibs and a lot of the DJs in Minneapolis, like Kevin Beecham, DJ Abilities, all those guys, just watching them play and getting ideas of, you know, breaking down walls about like, you know, just ideas that never would occur to you, like beat matching the samples you're scratching with, like making sure that that sound is long enough, because it's going to sound like if this is your turntable and here's your pitch adjustment, that sound, if you scratch it with the pitch adjustment down here, it's going to sound way different than if the pitch is up there.
Right.
And depending on that location, it's going to sound a lot better if it's, you know, closer to the speed of the song that you're scratching to. And, you know, just those little like secrets like that, you know, I don't know, maybe I was an idiot, but that shit just wasn't out there. You know what I mean? Like you kind of needed someone to kind of like guide you with all that, you know? Yeah. Right. And like, as far as right now, like there's a scratch DJ called JFB, I think his name is. And his routines online, it almost makes me want to just be like, well, I gave it my best shot. Like, but yeah, what's cool now is like everyone kind of has the technology, at least vinyl DJs, that you can put together like a really, really cool 10-minute routine that wasn't even possible to do, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just because of technology. So, just with the mixers out there and using Serato, it's really cool to be able to, like, I'm putting together a routine tonight, and even if I had all those records, the way that I'm doing it, it's just not possible to do it with actual real vinyl. I'm jumping between so many songs at such a quick pace and using all these crazy sounds to scratch with. So there's some radness to that, I'd say, with the technology that's there right now. But yeah, JFB's really tight. The stuff that guy does is just like, damn, like, I know all the other DJs out there are just like watching his routines and they're just like, oh, I gotta practice more.
Oh man. So I'm assuming like a lot of the DJs out there, you had to pay, a lot of dues and practice a lot and all of that stuff. At what point in time would you say you felt like, okay, I've arrived, I'm sort of where I want to be as far as a DJ? Do you recall at what point in time, or was there a particular event that you did, or, somebody that recognized you?
I'm not gonna like name drop anybody, but there was a couple times where like some, at least what I thought, some big heads in the industry, like, paid some compliments to me, and I was like, that's pretty fresh. But there wasn't, and as a turntablist, as a DJ, as a musician, as an artist, there's just no end to getting better. I don't think there's ever going to be like a spot where I'm just like, I'm good. There might be a spot where it's like, all right, I don't need to spend 3 hours a day practicing scratching anymore. But like, there's just always room for improvement. And I think that's with any instrument. There was one particular time, it was after I had left the States, and I moved to a really small island over in Thailand, and I had my turntables with me, and I took this job where I wouldn't be around any other English-speaking people, and I was just like out in the jungle in this little room working for this resort, and I had my turntables with me, and I was producing at the time still, but like I was like, oh, I'm just really gonna focus on, trying to get to that next level of scratching and stuff. And I put out like a mixtape. And when I was like listening to it, walking around the island, I was like, I really don't need to be here practicing for 3 hours a day. I was like, you know, this mixes fly. Like, I was very happy at where my levels of abilities got to and all the different aspects of DJing. And I was just kind of like, all right, I don't need to be like practicing for 3 hours a day. But right. I probably should be.
But but you have a pretty nice list of events and stuff that you have DJ'd at. You know, pretty well known and pretty special, I would say. You know, which one? You know, can you remember one particular event that you did that you were like, wow, I didn't think I would be doing something like this?
Yeah, like playing on the Warped Tour, playing at Scribble Jam, and then there's just been some crazy venues in Thailand at just some like gorgeous places. You're just like, you know, I feel like I'm in a rap video. Like, this is how like nice these places look, like really, really beautiful oceans. You're DJing on the beach and you're just like awestruck, like, holy shit. I played a show in I booked myself a show in Egypt once, in Cairo, and that was kind of on the opposite side of like what feels really good. Like, I was pretty sure I was gonna get like jacked or kidnapped because these guys like brought me down an alleyway when we were trying to find the venue. Okay. And like I could only speak like a little Arabic at the time. They were like these 2 7-foot-high Egyptian dudes, and they're just like, come with us, Habibi, come with us. We show you the door. And I was like, oh, I'm so gonna die tonight. And so that sticks out as maybe like one of the craziest. But I think my favorite one was like, as far as like Warped Tour was awesome because I got to play at a bunch of places around the country. I was only on it for a little. I never did like the whole entire Warped Tour, but played like, you know, the East Coast legs and stuff. Those were always really cool because you're just like setting up and everything's moving real quick. Scribble Jam was just kind of like historic for me. I grew up like watching the Scribble Jam videos. And that was like back in the day, that was like a big checklist to have, you know, on your DJ resume. It's like, yeah, I played Scribble Jam. Yeah, I got it with Scribble Jam, you know. Right. But I honestly, like, looking back on it, I think one of my favorite shows was at Alfred University in New York. It's this big art college, and one of my friends from Pittsburgh was going up there, and one of his friends threw this massive house party with like over 100 people, and you know, it was just like a college house party. But at that point in time, I was touring with 3 turntables at a time, because again, we didn't have Serato back then. You know, there wasn't even Final Scratch back then. There was no, hey, bring your computer and you can play any song in the world you want back then. That tech didn't exist. So I'd have 3 turntables. 2 of them were for records, and 1 was like a CD turntable. And it says this art college, so, you know, it's like, you know, artsy people. I'll describe them like that. You know, they're very like hard, you know. And I was playing like some remixes of like hardcore songs, and I got these people like almost to the point where they were moshing, and like one of the students, one of the university students, like ran up to my homie because everyone knew he booked me for this big party, and he's like, I can't believe I'm dancing to hardcore music. And I just remember him like saying that, like he was like shaking his head at himself, like, I'm dancing to Metallica right now. I was just like, that's that's pretty fly. That's probably one of the most memorable experiences I have that I can speak about.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. Right.
I just thought it was funny. Like, all right, I made this guy switch genres for the night, and he enjoyed it. Yeah.
Pretty dope.
You spoke a little bit about Scribble Jam. A lot of historic events went on there. I think Eminem battled Juice. I believe MF Doom performed there. Any particular memory that stood out during the time that you were at Scribble Jam?
Let's see. I got the DJ like out of nowhere. I just showed up in Cincinnati, and I was staying at Mr. Dibbs's place, who I'm not sure if you guys know or not, but he was one of the co-creators and co-founders of Scribble Jam. So I'm staying at his spot, and he had a small label going on at the time called Self-Core Records, and we put out stuff on there. And one of his friends from the Living Legends crew named Lucky I Am, PSC, he was staying at Dibbs's place too, and he asked me to DJ for him. And that was like pretty cool at the time because I was still super young and still like coming up, and it was like, wow, like in the span of 2 minutes, like now I get to DJ for someone from Living Legends. Oh, that's like super dope, you know. And, you know, it's like another slot that I'm DJing at Scribble Jam. So it's Scribble Jam. That was a pretty cool memory. And then what else? Cincinnati was just a fun-ass place. Yeah, but also meeting, rest in peace to my homie Scandal, OG from Cincinnati. I think it was Scandal, the Ruckus Man. I know it was Scandal. Can't remember the last part of his name right now. Sorry, fellas. It's like super early in the morning over here. But yeah, probably just, you know, getting asked to play with Lucky I Am was pretty cool. And then just if you had gone to Scribble Jam or any of these hip hop festivals, you know, there was just like some really nice vibes there. Like you got break dancers, you got graffiti, you got DJ battles, rap battles. Like that was a really nice time for rap and hip hop, I would say. You know, just walking around and, you know, you just got all those elements. And, you know, there's fights breaking out for sure, but it was still just like, I thought it was very healthy. You know, I like seeing graffiti. I like seeing people break dance. I like seeing like 3 DJs come together and, you know, do that. Yeah, I just fucking love hip hop, man.
You also toured with Chuck D, Gift of Gab, same one. Like what capacity was that? So, strangely enough, the first time I had anything to do with Chuck D was I got a phone call when I was in Pittsburgh, and I don't even think I was living there at the time. I think I was like back visiting, and I got a phone call, and my buddy was just like, "Can you come be in a Public Enemy video tonight?" And I was like, "Yes." Where? And it was on one of those hilly ass roads, you know, and we showed up, and unfortunately Public Enemy was not there, but it was a video for Chuck D. It was just for a Chuck D song. It wasn't for Public Enemy, we found out, but we just like danced around like we were awesome hip hop dancers, which we weren't. And it just gotten this Chuck D video, something with the word black in it. I can't remember the name of the song, but
it could be about 20 or 30 Public Enemy songs.
Yeah, like I think it was, the song's name was Black is Back. I think that was the song's name. And so that was the first experience I had with Chuck D. And then I think we've had like a few interactions, like we follow each other on Twitter and shit. And then he's played a couple of my songs on his radio show. And
Oh,
then
nice.
yeah. And you know, and I don't know about this stuff because like I'm like overseas and I don't really like bump the radio at night,
Right.
and I'm usually like asleep by the time all the good radio shows are on because I'm like 12 hours ahead, right, of East Coast time.
Okay.
So yeah, like my friends, my dude Impulse off of Man Bites Dog Records, he just hit me up and he's like, dude, Chuck D just played our song and said our names. And I was like, yeah, you know, like that shit'll make you happy for a month, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Chuck D just played my song, like, and he liked it. So like, you know, that's some cool shit. And then Gift of Gab and Black Alicious, back in the MySpace era, Gift of Gab just like made a post or said something. I want to thank. And he was like, you know, I'm open to working with people, just holler. And so I sent an email and his manager responded and we talked for a little bit. And then I was back in Pittsburgh and my phone rang. I was like, hello. He's like, Ian, DJ Criminal, this is Tim, Gifted Gab. We're going to make a song. And I was like, oh, fucking word. Yes, we are. And so, yeah, that's how that relationship got formed. And we worked on that single Fabric Softener for my first album for like many months because he was always on tour and busy, but we became pretty close like during that song. Yeah, rest in peace to my man Gift of Gab. And like what was awesome about that is like, you know, he was one of those rappers and Black Alicious was always one of those bands where I was like, these guys make some fucking brilliant music. Like I can put in Blazing Arrow and hit play and I don't got to go over and skip tracks.
Right.
And like, there's very few artists I can say that about.
Dope. So let me ask you, before you mentioned, I think you said your first hip hop album that you bought was around 2001.
Well,
right? More or less.
That was the first hip hop show I saw.
Oh, the first hip hop show. Okay.
Yeah, but the first hip hop album I bought was Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique, which dropped in '89.
Okay.
So my older brother introduced me to Beastie Boys. And at that point in time, I just thought rap was kind of silly. You know, I was like 8. And but the Beastie Boys, you know, they changed my heart, you know. I was like, oh, these guys are kind of fucking funny, and you know, these samples are groovy. Right. And so then, yeah, I had the Beastie Boys on cassette, and I had the Chronic on cassette, and I think my brother had a Salt and Pepper, and he had more rap than I did in my cassette collection. But the first hip hop albums I had was Chronic and Paul's Boutique.
Okay.
But yeah, first show was like 2001, 2000, Jurassic 5 in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Oh, nice. It's a good first show to go to.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were really cool too. They like hung out afterwards, and they waited until every single fan got a picture or autograph or just like a pound or a handshake or whatever. Right. And like back then, no one was doing selfies. No one even had cameras on their phone. Right. I mean, you guys remember those days, right?
Of course.
So like I think the hot shit in the streets was like, at least what I did, because I'm like, you know, uber badass, is like I got them to do my voicemail.
Oh, okay.
Phone, you know, so like, they'd be like, "This is so and so from Jurassic 5.
Nice.
Ian ain't here right now, so leave a message, word, you know, like some shit like that."
Nice.
I remember doing that a lot, like even if it wasn't, you know, like some well-known rapper, just like, or if I had like a friend that was just really fucking funny, I'd be like, do my voicemail for me.
Yeah. That's pretty dope. Yeah. So I was just asking about the 2001, because then you said recently also that for the last 20 so years, all you've been playing is hip hop, funk, and that type of genre. So I was just kind of curious as to at what point did you say, okay, you know what? I really love hip hop and I love this whole culture. And then you started kind of doing some research and digging and learning more and collecting albums, I'm assuming, because you have a pretty decent collection of records from what I understand, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Right,
Yeah, that all came from Minnesota and Minneapolis.
Okay.
And my days of interning at Rhyme Sayers and just seeing DJs there, like I think it was probably my first week that I had moved there. And the guy that I was interning under at the label, Kevin Beecham, amazing guy. You guys should check him out on all the socials. Kevin Beecham.
Okay.
Like I think he's just like a hip hop historian. Like, name a rapper and he knows the rapper 100%. Name any event that happened in hip hop and he knows it.
Right.
Like I think it was Lupe Fiasco, or I can't remember. Some like one of those like top 10 rappers that's out there. I forget their name off the top of my head. But they tagged Kevin Beecham, this guy I was working underneath, on Twitter, and they were talking to some other rapper on Twitter, and basically said, like, if this guy doesn't know you, you should like highly reconsider your career in rap.
Right.
And he called him the most important. Yeah, I think it was Lupe Fiasco, but I could be wrong. I'd have to check on that. But he called this dude the most important person, and he is just like an encyclopedia of hip hop knowledge. So working with him, I'd go out and like watch him play when I first moved to Minnesota, and he kind of introduced me to like a lot of the DJs in the city, and maybe I wasn't hanging out with the right DJs in Florida or Pittsburgh, but in Minnesota, I remember like my first week there, he took me to this spot called The King and I, and the DJ there, his name's Mike, the 2600 King, really great DJ, still DJs. And he was playing like the Meters and James Brown. And I was just like looking around. I was like, oh, this is really nice. And I was like, oh, this is. And I had recognized the Meters because my drum teacher growing up would always make me learn meters, breaks from the Meters. And yeah, that's when I first really like, I was like, oh, wow, like these genres really go together quite nicely, you know? You can go from like Wax Taylor, The Far Side, The Meters, James Brown.
Right.
You can throw that in there, and depending on the element of the venue and the show, you know, it sometimes that really enhances the vibe, I guess, you know? Because if you're not playing like, you know, a party where everyone's jumping up and down and everyone's, you know, if it's not like clubby club time, it might just be like martini time, you know? And, you know, you throw down like, funk and soul music. It's so nice to play. But, you know, it's just got to be like the proper venue, the proper crowd, the proper setting. Like, you know, like when I was playing Scribble Jam and Warped Tour, there was no like funk being dropped. You know, there was no like Etta James being played, or
right.
There was no Nina Simone going on, like, you know, with the tattoo crowd, so to speak.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Was your first release live in Minnesota in 2006?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, live in Minneapolis. I actually have a CD of it in my living room here. I was gonna take. There's a blend I did on there, and I want to do the same, like a mix of like 3 different songs at once, and I want to do it at this album release party I'm throwing tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. So yeah, I got the old mix out to listen to it. And yeah, that I forget the venue where that was recorded at, but it was in Minnesota. Yeah, it was in Minneapolis. Yeah, live in Minneapolis. Yeah.
What kind of reaction did you get when that dropped?
I got a really great reaction from Japan. But America, it was like, oh man, it's like really hard to sell CDs as a hip hop DJ, you know. But Scribble Jam, yeah, I was able to get rid of units, but it wasn't like some like ground, you know. It's not that great of a mixtape, you know, like you know, compared to like the mixtapes I grew up on listening to. Like DJ Rectangle's mixtapes, that shit, man, his shit was fly. I can still bump those and just be like, yes, you know, because he'd have like 100 songs on like one side of a cassette.
Right.
There's not 100 songs on that CD. But like the local heads that I was hanging out with at the time, they all like, you know, complimented me on it, but. Like I said, it wasn't some groundbreaking mixtape. It literally was like, I need physical product to have when I play shows now. Like it had gotten to the point where I was like, I need product, you know? And then I put out the CD. Yeah. But it wasn't nothing special, you know? It was cool, but yeah.
You continued to release music throughout the 2000s, mid 2000s. Which of those mixes do you consider most personable, most enjoyable, got the best reaction? Just what of those mixes do you consider your best?
I really like, and I think you can only find this because there was a short run of CD made for the Visa Run mix. And I think you can still find it on my Bandcamp. Yeah, it's still on my Bandcamp. I would say that's out of all the like mixtapes that I put out, I would say that's probably my favorite because there on that mix there is the meters. There is like hardcore music. There is like rock music. There's, you know, some clubby bangers. There's some underground stuff, and there's really good. I was like really happy with the scratching that I did on there. So that's probably my favorite one as far as the mixed ones go. Is a Visa Run, yeah, because there's just like, you know, that one's like, it's not as cool as DJ Rectangles, but it's like higher up the mountain towards Rectangles than Live in Minneapolis was. Yeah.
We're about to jump into Smugglers Candle in just a moment, but before that, can you talk to us about life as a contractor?
Sure. Contracting pays like excellently. If you are a young aspiring DJ and you want to expand your vinyl collection, become a private military contractor and go to places where people want to kill you, and then your vinyl library will expand. But yeah, I just I fell into it. It wasn't ever something I wanted to do. I was never like, I want to do that. You know, I've always just wanted to, you know, smile and play with records. I was living in Bangkok, and it's the funniest thing because someone here in Chiang Mai asked me, you know, like, how did you get here? Like, what steps, like, how did this happen? How are you able to live here? And it all, like, the past 10 years all stem from a coup that happened here in Thailand. And I was living in Bangkok in 2014, and there was a coup, and the government was kicked out, and the military took over. And when the military took over in the country, they implemented new rules for the foreseeable future. And one of them was like no public gatherings of more than 7 people at a time, so that there would not be protests,
right,
or violence. And like clubs couldn't stay open after like 8 or 9 or 10 or some shit. So like no music venues could really have events because no one was allowed to be in a room or an area with more than 7 people. Damn. So like overnight when this coup happened, all my DJ work like was out the window. And I was just like, all right, now there's like 70% of my like monthly finances that I live off of, like all gone. And I waited like a month or two and I was like, this sucks. You know, like no work, no DJing, like I was doing a day job. It was not fun. And my friend was in Saudi Arabia, and everyone like heard through the grapevine, like, oh, there's some like crazy jobs you can go out and get in the Middle East. And I called up my buddy and I was just like, you know, how bad is it over there? Because like in Saudi Arabia, like you can't talk to girls, you can't drink beer, there is no alcohol, there's all these crazy laws. So like it sounded like kind of a difficult place to live. I called up my homie and I was just like, hey, can you still get me a job there? He's like, yeah. And yeah, that's how I like got into contracting. And I moved to Saudi Arabia and started contracting for their Navy. And then that just kind of spiraled into more contracting work. And the contracting work always had like really gangster vacations. So you'd get like 3 months off a year. So I'd be like, all right, I'll book a tour and I'll go DJ in Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, Red Sea, etc., Thailand. I remember there was like one vacation. I had 52 flights in the span of 4 months. 52 flights. Wow. I hate flying too, but yeah, that's how I got into contracting. Yeah,
very tough.
Crazy.
The Smugglers Candle drops on August the 26th. Tell us a little bit about the concept behind that project.
Yeah, so a coworker of mine in Afghanistan was referencing the Smugglers Candle, and like, and she winked at me, and I was like, "What? You know, what is the Smugglers Candle?" And she's like, "Oh, it's an old smuggler's term for the moon." So like, at night when you're smuggling whatever product that you're trying to avoid taxes on or avoid incarceration on or whatever, you know, people would use the moon for light so they could see where they were running, you know. And I just thought that was a cool name. And I live in the Golden Triangle, which is historically a very well-known place for smuggling and trafficking. But for smuggling, and that's why I have like a journalist talking on the album in the beginning, is a lot of people confuse the term smuggling and trafficking. You know, trafficking is a dirty word, like human trafficking, like heroin trafficking. These are bad things. Smuggling is moving something so someone doesn't detect it. So like Schindler's List, smuggling Jews out of, you know, Nazi Germany and Poland, you know, that is good smuggling. Or like smuggling medicine into a refugee camp inside of a nasty country like Myanmar. Like there is there's not a term for it, but yeah, there are good smugglers. Han Solo was a smuggler. So like even like one of the videos, I reshot it because it's coming out. It was supposed to drop yesterday, I believe. Yeah, I think Word is Bond is putting it out, and it's the video for the title album, The Smuggler's Candle, and I showed it to all these people, and when I showed it to my parents, like over Christmas, because they're like, you know, what are you working on? And they're like, it looks like it's all about drugs. And I was like, what the fuck? No, not at all. And then when I went back to Thailand and I asked some people, I was like, you know, does this video really look like drugs? And they were like, oh yeah, for sure. And I was like, no, this is not what it's supposed to be about, you know? So we reshot it. So at the end, you know, you can see that the smuggling thing that's happening in this music video is 100% not drugs. It's like music that's being smuggled.
Okay.
So like that kind of ties into the title, the Smuggler's Candle, and you know, me living in this area of the Golden Triangle. And then when I was contracting in Afghanistan, I would, you know, hop on Discogs and I'd go out to the markets, and I have like 400 Afghan cassette tapes upstairs. And it got to the point where like I'd have so many records that, you know, the airlines would upcharge me on baggage fees and carry-on fees and this and that. And when I would arrive in Thailand, the customs agents were being like, oh, we're going to charge you this much per record. And I just got sick of all that shit. So I went to a tailor in Kabul and I got this big, long vest made. And I had 4 pockets made on the inside of the vest. And each pocket could hold 25 7-inch records. So I could wear, I'd put on this big ass vest and I could wear 100 records on each flight into Thailand. It was heavy and I just looked like this big fat man. But, you know, I'd have like my record case in a backpack. So I'd have like 75 records in like my record case that I was hand carrying, and I'd be wearing 100 records.
Oh my!
I had my like computer and shit in my backpack. Make it on the plane, carefully fold and take off the vest, and then whenever I'd land, just like scoot through customs and like, yeah, those records are here.
Yeah, and they never. I mean, you didn't look suspicious at all. Nothing with that on, like that. You know, if that was back in like, not to bring it up, but like 9/11 days, that probably wouldn't have worked.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, if you're bringing shit into America, like our customs agents, at least the ones I've encountered, were not like corrupt and trying to like roll you over.
True.
Like in fact, like I remember when I was living in Minnesota, me and my lady at the time had gone to Europe for a small like trip, and I bought a shit ton of wine, and I guess I bought more than the allotted amount. But when I was like coming back through Minnesota, and the customs agent was just like, bro, you're only supposed to be able to bring in like 6. It was some lady. And I was like, well, like, I'm not going back to France anytime soon. So, like, you know, what are we going to do with these 20 bottles of wine? And she just like shook her head and waved me through. So, like, props to her. But
that jacket you're talking about, I think I saw. Is that the same one? Like you have it on Instagram on one of your pictures.
Yeah,
you have it open with the. That's
yep.
So that's ill.
So like that style of like long vested like shoulder but like sleeveless down to your ankles. That's like a popular look, at least in the middle of Asia. Like dudes be rocking that. Okay. So like, so I didn't really like stand out too much. It wasn't like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. That's what I'm wearing. I'm picturing, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, it looks funky. Like I would, you know, like if you saw someone wearing that shit in America.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is this? What is this guy doing?
This guy's smuggling, man. What is he bringing in?
So it didn't. I don't think it. And you know, yeah, that would have defeated the whole purpose if it did draw more attention. You know, the idea is you want to blend in so you can just scoot through. Oh, I just wanted to ask: is that an MF Doom mask I see up on your shelf?
On
MF Doom? Is that the MF Doom mask up there?
Where are we looking at?
Behind your right shoulder. Nice. That's what's up. Yeah. Rest in peace to Doom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If you didn't know, Uncle E is part of the Get Yours posse. He grew up with Zev Love X in Long Island.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. No, since, what was it? Since like 88, when they first were working on, you know, the KMD stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got doubles of that upstairs right now, man. Hell yeah.
Of the KMD album?
Yeah.
Oh
Mr. Good.
wow. Oh wow, really nice.
Yeah, Black Bastards.
Yeah. Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
I got the CD right over there. But yeah, man. That's nice, man. Yeah.
Talk to us
Yeah.
a bit about the features on this Smugglers Candle.
Oh man, I mean, like, might as well change the album name to "Hey, this, hey, rap features." You know. So yeah, I've been working on this for so long, and basically, like, I would hear a sample, and I'd be like, "That needs made into a song." And I put drums behind it, and depending on how the sample hit me, I'd be like, "Oh, this person would sound great," and I would say like 80% of the people that are on there, the features, I worked with them or crossed paths with them sometime in the past. So like Carnage I know, and Slug I know, and Blueprint and Logic I know. Impulse is an old friend of mine as well who's on there. And then some of the other artists I just contacted during COVID, and I mean, I'm pretty sure like all the other producers know this as well, but like during COVID, rappers weren't playing shows.
Mm-hmm.
No one was playing shows like during that first year, you know, and people have just now slowly started to tour again. So I quickly found out at the beginning of COVID when musical artists couldn't tour, you know, we were all hurting for money. But I was contracting, so I was like, all right. But I quickly found out that like people that normally wouldn't respond for features were responding. So like I was calling George Clinton, I was calling Portishead, and all these people were like, not everything worked. Not all these calls like ended up in to the formation of a song, but I quickly found out. I was like, oh damn, like, you know, cats got to eat, and so I was able to get some artists on here that I've been trying to get for years, and finally got them on. And you know, maybe it wasn't due to COVID, but yeah, I'm very happy with all the guests that were on the album. That they all just did like a kick-ass job, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. Now I don't need to make like another album for like 5 years.
Nice.
Where can the people purchase the Smuggler's Candle? Where will it be available at when it drops this Friday?
So when it drops, it'll be available on my Bandcamp, DJ Criminal 412. You can go via my website, djcriminal.com, and then there's a special surprise. There's a label out of Seattle called Tape Jube. They picked up the physical portion of my album, so they're going to be putting out bundles. They're going to be putting out cassettes and some other secrets, hoodies, merchandise, some other secrets I can't talk about just yet. That's going to be happening early October, and you can go to smugglerscandle.com to find all that merch. But if you just want to get the tunes, and it's all for free from my Bandcamp, yeah, DJ Criminal's Bandcamp, djcriminal.com, and then all the normal streaming services and platforms. Yeah, that's where people can go listen, and yeah.
Nice.
Any plans to tour off this project?
So I just did a small tour over here in Asia last month, and no, I'm like so tired from doing it, from like doing this like release show. I mean, like, yeah, maybe in the fall, in the fall, I'll probably do another tour, but it won't necessarily be like specifically for the Smugglers album. I'll definitely be pushing that on the tour, but no, I'll wait till the fall to do a tour, because like, you know, if Japan's not open right now for people to enter, unless you're on like a long-term business visa or a family member of someone. So as soon as Japan opens, I'll put together a tour. But like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, maybe Singapore, Bali, Indonesia, probably not Myanmar, and maybe a couple other spots I'll do this fall. But I just did one just here in Thailand in June or July. I think it was July. Can't remember. But no immediate tour. Like the album and the release party, you know, without like a massive record label backing you and like handling things. No tour. There'll be a digital tour online.
Okay. Are you pretty much doing everything yourself though? Like the marketing and just, or do you have a little team put together?
Yeah, I got my homies. Like, you know, I work with Jerry Graham. He's my PR dude. Does a great job. Jerry Graham Publicity. That's who linked us up. And I got a videographer and like a website designer that are just two old homies of mine.
Okay.
And so, you know, like I throw some cash to them if we're working on a big project together. And then, you know, some branding management consulting firms that like I'll go in with for a little bit. But generally, like, yeah, it's like me and two big ass whiteboards. And it's like, all right, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
Very
good.
dope. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get out of here, can you shout out your social media?
Yeah, for sure. And before I do that, let me just say thanks for having me on here, fellas.
Of course.
Yeah, let's stay in touch, you know. My socials, Twitter is DJ Criminal. It's at DJ Criminal 612. Instagram is at DJ Criminal. Facebook is at DJ Criminal Online.
Very dope.
And out of all three of those, I'm probably the most active one is Instagram, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Man, it's been a pleasure. And I do want to say that when I heard the name DJ Criminal, I was expecting to see some kind of like guns in the back and some, you know, you seem like a really nice guy. I don't know you that well, but you know.
Yeah, like I really wish I didn't. I really wish I could change the name, but it's way too late. Like the name the way that the name came about was that mixtape. Like good on you on the research. That mixtape live in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That photo that has a dude in a hoodie. That's my brother. And that was for one of his college art projects. And he just put the word criminal there. And I was like, that would make a really cool mixtape album cover. And when I was working with Selfcore Records and I was asking them like right before I was about to press up these CDs, I was like, which DJ name should I go with? Because like at that point in time, I wasn't really playing out like too much. You know, like, no, I don't think anyone in the city like knew like who DJ whatever was. And I was using an old name. I was like, fuck, which one do I go with, Jedi or Criminal? And I was like, well, the album cover says Criminal, so that just makes sense. And then over the years, like, you know, I've learned to discover, you know, the word criminal has some really bad connotations to it. But so like when people like are like, whoa, what's your DJ name? I'm like, Criminal. and you know, but like, no, I have like 0 tattoos.
But it's good, man. It goes within the theme of hip hop. We always take something and flip it to mean the opposite. So there you go, DJ Criminal. Yeah. But you sound like the nicest guy I've ever met.
Thanks. Cheers, man. Likewise.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about leaving my money next to you, man. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't clear samples, so.
There
we go.
That comes about.
We're not going to put this out there. We will edit that part.
Right on.
No, man. Once again, on behalf of Changing the Hip Hop Guards, it's been a pleasure. You know, let's do this again pretty soon. Next time you have something coming out, or if you just want to, you know, let us know what you've been up to. feel free to reach
dude.
out, man. And you know, like I said, I had a lot of fun talking to you. I'm sure Sincere did as well.
Absolutely.
And once again, shout out to Jerry Graham. Always coming through in the clutch.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
With your good luck with your release. You know,
thank you,
get
fellas,
working on that.
Again, yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Really, really appreciate it. And let's stay in contact, man. You know, we can talk more about Zevlov X and
of course.
Yeah, we can share some stories.
Of course,
Absolutely.
of course. Anytime.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, fellas. I'll let you guys get back to it.
All right.
Peace. And drive safe. Seatbelts, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Thanks, Scribble.
Laters.